I used to measure time by holidays: Thanksgiving, Christmas, my birthday. The years my parents forgot I existed blurred together because none of those days mattered anymore. 5 years sounds dramatic when you say it out loud, but when you're living it, it happens quietly. Missed calls stop coming, cards stop arriving. Eventually, even the anger fades, and what's left is this low, humming absence that follows you everywhere like background static. The last time I spoke to my dad was the night I packed my car and drove west. He stood in the doorway of the house I grew up in, arms crossed, jaw tight, like he was bracing himself against a storm that wasn't there. "You'll be back," he said. Not angry, certain. "I won't," I said, my voice shaking in a way I hated. He smiled in that small, dismissive way. "You always think you know better." My mom didn't come to the door. She was upstairs, probably pretending she couldn't hear us. She was very good at that. I drove away with my hands locked at 10 and 2, knuckles white, eyes burning. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the moment they'll call tomorrow and apologize, or next week, or next month. They never did. The first year I tried. I sent texts, long ones, short ones, photos of the tiny studio apartment I rented above a bakery that smelled like burnt sugar every morning. I sent updates about my job, about the promotion I didn't get, about the one I finally did. My messages stayed unread, or worse, read with no reply. By year 2, I stopped initiating. I told myself I was done chasing people who didn't want me. That sounded strong, empowered, but late at night I still checked my phone, just in case. By year 3, I stopped telling people I had parents. It was easier to say, "It's complicated," and let the conversation die there. By year 4, my life looked nothing like the one they imagined for me. I had moved again, twice actually. I had learned how to negotiate contracts, how to read people's silences, how to sit alone at a bar and enjoy it. I met investors who listened to me, clients who respected me, friends who showed up. By year 5, I owned things I never thought I would. The yacht came last. It wasn't supposed to be symbolic. It was supposed to be practical. That's what I told myself when I signed the papers, pen heavy in my hand, heart thudding in my ears. It was an asset, a floating one, sure, but still an asset. I had grown up near water. Boats made sense to me. Freedom made sense to me. The day I first stepped onto the deck, the sun was brutal, and the marina smelled like salt and diesel. I kicked off my shoes and let my feet touch the wood, warm and smooth. "This is insane," my aunt said, laughing, her sunglasses perched on her head. "Do you realize how ridiculous this is?" "I do," I said, smiling. "That's why I love it." My aunt had always been different. My mom's younger sister. Louder, messier, the one who slipped me cash when my parents said no, who told me to call her anytime, even at 3 in the morning. She was the only family member who never stopped checking in, even when my parents erased me. She hugged me tight on the dock. "I'm proud of you," she said into my hair. I didn't answer, because if I did, I would cry, and I didn't want my first memory on that boat to be tears. We took photos, stupid ones, wind-blown hair, squinting smiles, champagne flutes raised, even though it was barely noon. At one point, she grabbed my phone and said, "No, let me post one. You never post anything." "Please don't tag me," I said, automatically. She paused just a second too long, then shrugged. "Fine, I won't tag you." She posted it anyway. I didn't know that yet. I was too busy leaning against the railing, watching the water ripple, thinking about how strange it was that peace could feel so loud. That night, I fell asleep with the gentle rocking of the marina beneath me. My phone was on silent, face down on the counter. I didn't check it until morning. There were 17 missed calls, 8 from my dad. I stared at the screen, my pulse thudding in my ears, that old, familiar mix of dread and disbelief crawling up my spine. I hadn't seen his name light up my phone in years. It felt like looking at a ghost. There was a text sent at 2:14 a.m. "Is this a joke?" Another at 2:16. "Call me, now." Another at 2:19. "Where did you get that yacht?" I sat down on the edge of the bed, phone heavy in my hand, the quiet of the cabin suddenly oppressive. My first instinct was to laugh, a short, sharp sound that startled even me. 5 years. 5 years of silence, and this was what finally made him reach out? I opened social media. My aunt's post was right there at the top of her page, a photo of me on the deck, hair loose, sun on my face, the yacht's name visible behind me. Her caption read, "Couldn't be prouder of this one, from nothing to this." The comments were already piling up, and somewhere in the middle of that digital noise, my father had seen me again. I didn't reply, not right away. I put the phone down and stood up, walking to the small window, watching the marina wake up. A man jogged past with a coffee. A gull screamed. Life went on, completely indifferent to the fact that my past had just come crashing back in. When I finally picked up my phone again, there was a voicemail. His voice sounded older, tighter. "What the hell is going on? Your mother saw a picture. You need to explain yourself." Explain myself. I replayed that part twice, my jaw clenched. I typed a response, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. I wasn't ready. I needed to decide something first. Not what to say, but whether I was willing to let them back into my life at all. Because if I answered, I knew exactly what would happen. Questions would turn into accusations, concern would turn into entitlement. They wouldn't ask how I was, they'd ask how I did it and why they weren't part of it. My phone buzzed again. A new text from my dad. "We need to talk. This affects the family." I smiled, slow and humorless, staring at the word family like it was written in a foreign language. I locked my phone, slid it into my pocket, and stepped back out onto the deck, the sunlight blinding, the water endless and blue. I told myself I'd answer later. I just didn't know yet how much later would cost me. I stayed on the deck longer than I needed to, letting the sun burn the last of the chill from my skin, pretending that the buzzing in my pocket didn't exist. Every vibration felt like a knock on a door I'd welded shut years ago. I kept thinking, if I ignore it long enough, maybe the past will get tired and go away again. It didn't. By noon, there were more messages, not just from my dad anymore. "Mom, why didn't you tell us you were doing this well?" Mom, again, 2 minutes later, "We deserve an explanation." That one made my stomach twist. Deserve. The word sat there like it owned space in my life. I finally called my aunt. "You saw it, didn't you?" she said the second she picked up. "I saw everything," I replied, my voice flat. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I honestly didn't think—" "It's okay," I cut in, softer than I felt. This was going to happen eventually. She was quiet for a moment. "Your dad called me, yelling." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "Of course he did. He wants to know if it's really yours." "And?" I told him yes, and that it's none of his business. A small, unexpected warmth spread through my chest. "Thank you." "He's not done," she warned gently. "Neither of them are." I knew that. I'd known it the second I saw his name light up my screen. My parents didn't forget how to be parents. They forgot how to be decent when control slipped through their fingers. I told myself I'd call them back after lunch, then after dinner, then tomorrow. But tomorrow came with a knock. I was inside the cabin, barefoot, hair still damp from a shower when I heard it. 3 sharp raps against the hull, followed by a voice I recognized instantly. "Hey, it's Dad." My heart slammed so hard I felt it in my throat. For a split second, I thought I was imagining it. The marina was public, sure, but the odds of him actually showing up. Another knock. "I know you're in there." I didn't move. I stared at the door like it might explode. 5 years without so much as a birthday text, and now he was standing on the dock outside my yacht, like he had every right to be there. I opened the door just enough to see him. He looked smaller, thinner. His hair was more gray than I remembered, but his eyes were the same, sharp, assessing, already counting. "Hi," he said, like we'd spoken yesterday. "Hi," I echoed, my voice distant even to my own ears. He stepped closer, peering past me into the cabin. "So it's real?" "It is." He let out a low whistle. "Wow, you really did something for yourself." I waited. He didn't say he was proud. He didn't say he was sorry. Of course he didn't. Your mother's very upset. She feels hurt. I laughed before I could stop myself. That's interesting. His eyes narrowed, clearly annoyed that I wasn't playing my old role. Don't be like that. We didn't know what you were up to. You didn't ask. We gave you space. You erased me, I shot back, the words burning as they came out. He waved a hand, dismissive. That's not how we see it. I stepped out onto the deck then, closing the door behind me so he couldn't look around anymore. This was my space. He didn't get to inspect it. So, I said, crossing my arms, what do you want? He hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. It was all the confirmation I needed. Well, he said, carefully, since you're clearly doing very well, we thought it might be time to reconnect, as a family. There it was. Not an apology, not regret, an opportunity. You found me because of a picture, I said quietly, not because you missed me. He bristled. That's not fair. Isn't it? He sighed, rubbing his temple. Look, your mother's been under a lot of stress. This whole thing, seeing you like this, it was a shock. To her, I said, not to me. Silence stretched between us, heavy and awkward. Then he said it, the thing that made everything snap into focus. So, is this yacht fully paid off? I stared at him. I'm sorry? I said. He cleared his throat. I'm just asking, because if it is, there could be tax implications, family considerations. Family considerations. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not sadness, not anger, clarity. You didn't come here to see me, I said slowly. You came here to see what you could get. His face hardened. That's not true. Then say it. Say you're sorry. Say you were wrong. Say you missed me. His mouth opened. Closed. He looked away, jaw tight. That was answer enough. I think you should go, I said. What? I think you should leave, I repeated, my voice steady. His eyes flashed. After everything we've done for you? Stop, I said sharply. You don't get to rewrite history on my deck. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're being emotional. Let's talk about this like adults. I am. Adults leave when they're not wanted. For a moment, I thought he might argue, might raise his voice, might do what he always did when he lost control. Instead, he straightened his jacket and forced a thin smile. We'll talk later. No, I said. We won't. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me at all. Maybe he didn't. The daughter he remembered would have folded by now, apologized, tried to fix things. This version of me didn't owe him peace. He turned and walked back down the dock without another word. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Mom, why was your father crying when he got home? I stared at the message, then locked my phone and slipped it into my pocket again. The water lapped gently against the hull. Somewhere nearby, someone laughed. The world kept spinning, unbothered. But I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the marina, every distant engine felt like it might be them coming back. I kept replaying his face when I told him to leave, the way confusion and entitlement wrestled inside his eyes. I'd waited 5 years to feel something when I saw my parents again. I thought it would be rage or grief. Instead, it was this eerie calm, like I'd finally stepped out of a loud room and shut the door behind me. Morning brought more messages. Mom, your father didn't sleep. Dad, we need to talk, properly. Dad, again, 10 minutes later, we deserve that much. I read them while drinking coffee on the deck, watching the marina wake up. Couples and joggers, retirees walking dogs, a guy arguing with his teenage son over a tangled fishing line. Normal life, real life, not whatever emotional hostage situation my parents were trying to drag me back into. I didn't reply. Around noon, my aunt called again. Her voice was careful, like she was stepping onto thin ice. They're spiraling, she said. Your mom called me crying. She says she feels humiliated. By what? I asked. A picture? By the fact that other people know you're successful and she didn't know. I snorted. That sounds like her problem. There was a pause. They think you're hiding money. They're asking questions about your business, about how long you've had the yacht. Of course they are. They even asked me if you're married, she added softly. That one hit me differently. Not painful, just strange. Like being asked about a stranger who happened to share my face. I'm not calling them, I said. I know, she replied. I just wanted you prepared. Prepared for what? I found out 2 days later. I was in town grabbing groceries when phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. Something made me answer. Hello? Is this... A woman paused, checking something. Emilia Carter? My chest tightened. Yes. This is Linda Morales. I'm calling from Carter and Associates. I stopped walking. From my dad's firm? Yes. I'm an office manager here. Your parents asked me to reach out. I laughed under my breath. Of course they did. They always preferred intermediaries when they wanted to keep their hands clean. What do they want? I asked. They're concerned about some misunderstandings regarding assets, family assets. I don't have family assets, I replied. I have my own. There was a brief, awkward silence. They'd like to schedule a meeting. No. Another pause. They feel it's important. I don't. I hung up before she could respond. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, a thick envelope was slid under my cabin door. No stamp, hand-delivered. Inside was a letter. From my mother. She wrote about sacrifices, about sleepless nights, about how hard it was to raise a difficult child. She wrote about forgiveness like it was something she could grant me if I behaved properly. And then, near the end, she wrote the line that made my hands shake. We think it's only fair that you contribute to the family now that you're in a position to help. Contribute. I folded the letter slowly and placed it on the table. I didn't tear it up. I didn't cry. I just stared at the wood grain until the anger passed and something sharper replaced it. Resolve. I called my lawyer that afternoon. Hey, I said when he picked up, how hard is it to make sure someone can't touch my assets?
The marina was quiet that night, the kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own breathing. I sat on the edge of the deck with my feet dangling above the water, phone face down beside me, like it might suddenly bite if I looked at it again. I kept thinking that this was supposed to feel like victory, closure, some dramatic full-circle moment where the past finally loosened its grip. Instead, it felt unfinished, sharp around the edges. At almost midnight, my phone buzzed again. One message. Dad, we're coming to town. We just want to talk. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. I didn't answer. I watched the reflection of the yacht lights ripple across the water and thought about how strange it was that the same people who forgot my birthday 5 years in a row suddenly couldn't stand not having access to my life, to my space, to my success. I went inside, locked the door, and poured myself a drink. The envelope from my mom was still on the table where I'd left it. I hadn't decided what to do with it yet. Keep it, burn it, frame it as a reminder of exactly who they were when no one was watching. Outside, somewhere down the dock, a car door slammed. Laughter echoed, someone else's family, someone else's story. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't my parents. It was my lawyer. Just a heads up, the text read, your parents made some inquiries today. Nothing actionable yet, but they're digging. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then set the phone down slowly. I walked back out onto the deck and let the cool air hit my face. The city lights flickered in the distance, indifferent, steady, unmoved by family drama or old wounds. They were digging. That was fine, because this time, I wasn't the one buried, and whatever they were about to uncover next, it wasn't going to go the